Hi boys and girls. It is Tuesday and I wanted to come outside to do my reading today. I really wanted to come outside because one thing that I like to do to take a break and to relax is get on my yoga mat and do some yoga moves, or just kind of lie there in my space and take some deep breaths and really just center myself and make myself feel better and more at peace. Yesterday, with the beautiful sun, Braden and I came outside and we did some workouts on our mats, and I immediately felt happier and I immediately felt better. So I figured I would do my reading outside for you today in Wonder. That way you could have an idea of what it's like to read outside, and I think that's just such a great idea for you. Don't just read in the same spot every day. Try to find a working space that changes a little bit, and on beautiful days, get outside and get in the sun. So I'm sitting on my yoga mat under one of my trees at my house. If you hear the ball bouncing in the background, it's just Braden playing basketball. And I wanted to quickly note that I saw Adriana's comment on my page that she thinks that Jack should just tell that Augie should just tell Jack why he's so upset with him. And I agree, it's kind of been drawn out for a little while, right? It's kind of like, why isn't Augie just letting Jack know why he's upset with him? And I think that as we read on, you are going to find out if that's going to happen. So I think that was a really great comment, Adriana. So today we're going to still continue with Jack's story. We have quite a bit left. We are in a chapter, very short one. It's called Fortune Favors the Bold. Mr. Brown's December precept was, Fortune favors the bold. We were all supposed to write a paragraph about some time in our lives when we did something very brave, and how, because of it, something good happened to us. I thought about this a lot, to be truthful. I have to say that I think the bravest thing I ever did was become friends with August. But I couldn't write about that, of course. I was afraid we'd have to read these out loud, or Mr. Brown would put them up on the bulletin board like he always did, sometimes. So instead, I wrote this lame thing about how I used to be afraid of the ocean when I was little. It was dumb, but I couldn't think of anything else. I wonder what August wrote about. He probably had a lot of things to choose from. The next chapter is called Private School. My parents are not rich. I say this because people sometimes think that everyone who goes to private school is rich. But that isn't true with us. Dad's a teacher and Mom's a social worker, which means they don't have those kinds of jobs where people make gazillions of dollars. We used to have a car, but we sold it when Jamie started kindergarten at Beecher Prep. We don't live in a big townhouse or in one of those doorman buildings alongside the park. We live on the top floor of a 5-story walk-up. We rent from an old lady named Doña Petra, all the way on the other side of Broadway. That's code for the section of North River Heights where people don't want to park their cars. Me and Jamie share a room. I overhear my parents talk about things like, can we do without an air conditioner one more year? Or maybe I can work 2 jobs this summer. So today at recess, I was hanging out with Julian and Henry and Miles. Julian, who everyone knows is rich, was like, I hate that I have to go back to Paris this Christmas. It's so boring. Dude, but it's like Paris, I said like an idiot. Believe me, it's so boring, he said. My grandmother lives in this house in the middle of nowhere. It's like an hour away from Paris in this tiny, tiny, tiny village. I swear to God, nothing happens there. I mean, it's like, oh wow, there's another fly on the wall. Look, there's a new dog sleeping on the sidewalk. Yippee. I laughed. Sometimes Julian can be very funny. Though my parents are talking about throwing a big party this year instead of going to Paris. I hope so. What are you doing over break? Said Julian. Just hanging out, I said. You're so lucky, he said. I hope it snows again, I answered. I got this new sled that is so amazing. I was about to tell them about lightning, but Miles started talking first. I got a new sled too, he said. My dad got it from the Hamacher Schlamacher. It's so state of the art. How could a sled be state of the art? Said Julian. It was like $800 or something. Whoa. We should all go sledding and have a race down Skeleton Hill, I said. That hill is so lame, answered Julian. Are you kidding, I said. Some kid broke his neck there. That's why they call it Skeleton Hill. Julian narrowed his eyes and looked at me like I was the biggest moron in the world. It's called Skeleton Hill because it was an ancient Indian burial ground. Duh, he said. Anyway, it should be called Garbage Hill now. It's so freaking junky. Last time I was there, it was so gross, like with soda cans and broken bottles and stuff. He shook his head. I left my old sled there, said Miles. It was the crappiest piece of junk, and someone took it, too. Maybe a hobo wanted to go sledding, laughed Julian. Where did you leave it, I said. By the big rock at the bottom of the hill. And I went back the next day, and it was gone. I couldn't believe somebody actually took it. Here's what we can do, said Julian. Next time it snows, my dad could drive us all up this golf course in Westchester and make Skeleton Hill look like nothing. Hey, Jack, where are you going? I had started to walk away. I've got to get a book out of my locker, I lied. I just wanted to get away from them fast. I didn't want anyone to know that I was the hobo who had taken the sled. The last chapter I'm going to read today is in science. I'm not the greatest student in the world. I know some kids actually like school, but I honestly can't say that I do. I like some parts of school, like PE and computer class and lunch and recess, but all in all, I'd be fine without school. And the thing I hate the most about school is all of the homework we get. It's not enough that we have to sit through a class after class and try to stay awake while they fill our heads with all the stuff that we will probably never need to know, like how to figure out the surface area of a cube or what is the difference between kinetic and potential energy. I'm like, who cares? I've never ever heard my parents say the word kinetic in my entire life. I hate science the most of all my classes. We get so much work, it's not even funny. And the teacher, Miss Rubin, is so strict about everything, even the way we write our headings on the top of our papers. I once got 2 points off a homework assignment because I didn't put the date on top. Crazy stuff. When me and August were still friends, I was doing okay in science because August sat next to me and always let me copy his notes. August has the neatest handwriting of anybody I had ever seen who's a boy. Even his script is neat, up and down perfectly with really small, round, loopy letters. But now that we're ex-friends, it's bad because I can't ask him to let me copy his notes anymore. So I was kind of scrambling today, trying to take notes about what Ms. Rubin was saying. My handwriting is awful. When all of a sudden she started talking about the 5th grade science fair project and how we all had to choose a science project to work on. While she was saying this, I was thinking, we just finished the Egypt project and now we have to start a whole new thing? And then in my head I was going, oh no, like that kid in Home Alone with his mouth hanging open and his hands on his face. That was the face I was making on the inside. And then I thought of those pictures of melting ghost faces I've seen somewhere where the mouths are open wide and they're screaming. And then all of a sudden, this picture flew into my head, this memory. And I knew what Summer had meant by bleeding scream. It's so weird how it all just came to me in this flash. Someone in homeroom had dressed up in a bleeding scream costume on Halloween. I remember seeing him a few desks away from me, and then I remember not seeing him again. Oh man, it was August. All of this hit me in science class while the teacher was talking. Oh man. I'd been talking to Julian about August. Oh man. Now I understood. I was so mean. I don't even know why. I'm not even sure what I said, but I know it was bad. It was only a minute or two. It's just that I knew Julian and everybody thought I was so weird for hanging out with August all the time, and I felt stupid. And I don't know why I said that stuff. I just was going to go along with it. Oh, I was so stupid. I am stupid. Oh, God. He was supposed to come as Boba Fett. I would never have said that stuff in front of Boba Fett. But that was him, the bleeding scream, sitting at the desk looking over at us. The long white mask with the fake squirting blood, the mouth open wide like the ghoul was crying. That was him. I felt like I was going to puke. So, really quick, because I know that's where we're going to stop today, let's go back. The first chapter was about being bold and being brave. And the precept was, fortune favors the bold. And they were supposed to write about a time in their lives when they did something that was brave, and how because of that, something good happens. So, fortune favors the bold. That would be a really cool thing to do writing about. So if you do any writing about how brave you've been in a situation, maybe you feel like you're being really brave right now, you can write that up as your daily writing, and you can send that to me, and I would love to read about it. The second chapter about private school, we found something really interesting out. Miles is the one who left his sled at Skeleton Hill, and Jack is the one who got that sled and turned it into his amazing sled. However, Miles and Julian, they have a lot of money, they're pretty rich and they're well off, and Jack's family isn't. So as soon as he realized that it was actually Miles' sled that Miles was just kind of throwing away, Jack kind of removed himself from the situation. I think he felt a little bit embarrassed that maybe he was the one, the hobo, that took the sled that actually belonged to Miles. But Jack didn't think of it as a bad sled. Remember, he worked really hard to make it something great. So it's interesting how it kind of reminded me of this saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So that might have been trash to Miles, but to Jack, it was really important to him. But he was embarrassed, and he just kind of walked away and didn't say anything to the boys. And then finally, the best part is when Jack finally realizes that it was August in the bleeding scream mask on Halloween. And he now knows why August is upset with him. But what I think is interesting, and I think that we kind of knew this about Jack's character, Jack feels terrible. He was even saying, like, I don't even know why I said those mean things. I was just saying it to be cool, kind of, in front of Julian and all his friends, because he knew that they made fun of him for hanging out with August. So I think Jack was trying to fit in instead of standing up for his friend August. And I know that's a really, really, really hard thing for kids to do. So it doesn't surprise me that Jack had a difficult time with that. But I think he's learning his lesson now. And because of his actions, he hurt August. And I don't know if he's going to be able to take it back. What do you think? Do you think he'll be able to repair this relationship that's broken? I don't know. So I will continue to read for you tomorrow. I love you and I miss you, and I hope you enjoyed the story. Have a good night.